your idea just might seem so boring or so bland and no one's going to be excited about it, but you mention it to someone else. They could be either in an allied field or they could be totally unrelated, but they're going to give you that confidence and that new self-awareness and that new perceptions that you could go out and pitch again, just restart again and build up that energy level and keep it going.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited for our special guest today, Dr. Ross Radusky. He is one of the most special members of our community, but he is also a board certified dermatologist. He is an entrepreneur, founder, and inventor of Sunshots, which we will talk about, a consultant to one of the largest beauty pharmaceutical companies in the US. And last but not least, he has helped so many of us learn how to apply the methods to land media features. So, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Gloria. It's great to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Now, you were on the Facebook Live in our Facebook group a year ago talking about
Yeah.
how you used to be a TV producer. You used to work at ABC News, and now you're doing your own pitching and how it's kind of helped you grow your business. And I think right before we got on this, you told me now you've gave me the whole list of all the media features you've received in the past few months. I'm going to start to list all of them. You said you landed Allure, Men's Health, Pop Sugar, Brit and Co, ABC News, Everyday Health, Insider, local news. Whew, did I get all of them?
Those are big ones, and each one like I'm super proud of. And yeah, it's just been great, and I've used so many of your methods, and I feel like after a year of being a valued member of your club, it's things have only really looked up. That they've been super exciting, and I'm happy to sort of share some of the things that I've done to make that successful.
Now, you are also, so not only do you have a medical practice, you have a brick and mortar business, you also invented a product. So I love how multifaceted your pitching is. But the first question I want to ask you is you have a brick and mortar business, right? You have a physical location, a medical office. So wouldn't the first thought would be, I need to use local Google ads or do more of the paid media? Why did you decide to go so focused on PR?
Yeah, that's a great question. So once you sort of are out there in press, right, your name is instantly and forever on the internet. And people really research. There's a reason why the healthcare and the beauty industry is a multi-billion, almost $1 trillion industry, because people are constantly searching. They want that information. One of the reasons why I sort of immediately went towards thinking of press is because if your name is out there, you could pay for all the AdWords that you want. You could pay for all the sponsored ads, all the Instagram ads. It is not a permanent form of SEO. So to really maximize how you're searching yourself and how your name really comes up, there is nothing better than landing an article, let's say in Allure, on the difference between dehydrated skin and oily skin. And all of that sort of comes together.
I love how creative you are with all the different angles that you pitch because you have many different things. It's not just about your local business. So I definitely want to get into that. But the first big question is around mindset, right? A lot of people who are listening might say, well, I don't have a medical degree or my business is not a very quote unquote prestigious one or whatever it is. What do you have to say to that for someone who's just maybe making bracelets in their garage?
Yeah, so absolutely not true. So there is a niche, there is a need, there is a want for almost everything and anything under the sun. And yes, I sometimes do approach it as a physician that sort of starts it, but that's because that's my expertise, right? So if you're telling me you're making something in your garage, I don't have that expertise. So I would never pitch myself as that someone with that expertise. And I would really encourage people in their field to own their field and know their field and pitch from that level, because people are going to want to know that, how you can make, I think, you always use the examples of making candles, and let's just use making candles in your basement. There are everyday spas opening up. There are places that need fragrances. People just want to buy candles. So that's how you should pitch it. You should just come from the approach of, what you're doing best, what you need, and only one person can speak with that knowledge, and it is so welcome. And that's really the main focus.
I love that when you change your mindset, a whole ocean of opportunities open up for you. Because I bet for every person that's listening, there are 12, 13, 14 doctors in the same position as you who are not trying PR because they just think it probably won't work for them, or they're just caught up in the old way of thinking, right?
Yeah, Absolutely. I mean, it's a lot of hard work. It might not be incredibly time intensive, but it is changing the way that you're thinking in order to captivate and capture as many either new patients, new followers, new readers, whatever you sort of are looking for. It's definitely a different mindset than from what we've traditionally been thought of, right? So if you were to ask me what are the main reasons why your skin might be dry, right? I could read you a textbook and I could tell you you might have a certain enzyme deficiency or things like that. It's changing your mindset so that way you could create an email that says, you know what, spring is ending, summer's coming. These are 3 reasons why your skin is dry, A, B, C.
Yeah, I love that. We're definitely going to get into all the seasonal trends because you have just I just feel like your mind is you always have new opportunities and you're pitching for every season. Even you said something about Halloween, which to me is not really a skincare angle to pitch, but you were successful in that. So let's get into that a little bit more. Is
Sure.
before you were in the starter pack, before you used the CPR method, how did you think about pitching yourself? And then how did that framework change what you thought was possible in terms of pitching yourself all year round?
Yeah, and I think this goes back to people who aren't in the healthcare field and are just they're worried about whether they could pitch themselves. You have to. The biggest change that I noticed was you have to pitch the info, and then you and your expertise as sort of part of the CPR method will come second, as almost like a booster to it. So I used to thought like, hey, I'm Dr. Ross Radusky. I'm a dermatologist. You should pick on me. That's actually not the CPR method. That's part of CPR, but it's not the primary focus. The first focus is your timely headline or your timely catch, that pitch, those ideas. Then you could bolster it with the expertise that you have, with that credibility piece. So yeah, that C part of CPR is super important, but just saying that you're a physician means absolutely nothing. It's really being able to tie it to what you're offering, what that deliverable is that you're providing in your presser or in your email that you're sending, that captures a producer or a news director's attention, and then they'll read it and they'll be like, okay, this seems like a decent idea, and then wait, he's also an expert in that, like that's a great match, and that's
Yeah.
sort of how success can come.
I love that. The CPR again for those who haven't heard it, definitely go watch the masterclass. But CPR is stands for credibility, point of view, and relevance, and it's kind of what I teach inside of my program. And Dr. Ross is saying that the credibility part, although it's a part of it, you don't need to be board certified. You don't need to have all these degrees. You can literally say, "I am a founder," right? Because
Yeah.
I don't think that journalists are like, well, show me your credentials for me to feature you. It's about leading with the solution instead of leading with your background. So another question comes up is some people say, well, I don't think I am an expert or I don't have any interesting angles. All the angles I know are kind of boring. So what would you say to that?
So the first thing is, are they boring to you because you sort of see them all the time? I think that's really an important task. So there's as an example, there's only so many ways that I can think of talking about seasonal skincare tips, but the audience pool gets larger and larger. There's different niches, and people actually are interested in that. So I think that that's the first thing that you should ask yourself. Is it not interesting because it's you and your domain, and you're not thinking of how people look at it from the outside? And then the other thing is, can you sort of find a way to make it relevant, right? So you just mentioned your CPR. Can you find that R, that sort of relevancy to it, so that there is a catch? Can you tie it to something? Can you tie it to a season? Can you tie it to breaking news, to changing things? Because then it's interesting. And again, it is a different way of thinking. I wouldn't encourage anyone, I wouldn't discourage anyone from thinking that their idea is super boring. That's probably not a healthy attitude to have. I think that there's a lot of there's an importance in positivity, but it could simply be directing it in the proper way to gain that attention. So you had mentioned Halloween, And you're right, most people don't think of that as a skincare holiday. But what if I told you that you are consuming so much sugar, so much chocolate, so much fat? And what if I told you that maybe it could worsen your acne or your eczema or other conditions? And that was the pitch that I used. And that's sort of, why I got some local press here. And there's more of my name out there, and that's more SEO. And that, drives the ultimate goal of me, which is either to promote my business, whether it be my practice or my invention, or just let the public know, like, hey, you know what, maybe we love Snickers or we love other chocolates and goodies, but everything in moderation is super, super important.
Now, I love the creativity in that because I think for most people, it's either, well, duh, obviously sugar is not great, but I wouldn't pitch it, or they wouldn't even think to pitch that around Halloween. Or I might think there's not many journalists who are writing about skincare around the holidays. They're writing about candy and shopping and kids' costumes. So, how do you pick in 10 different ways that you have angles for everything? How do you pick which one to actually pitch? Are you pitching simultaneously 2 to 3 angles at a time?
It kind of varies. It depends. If I feel like there are two different audiences, right? So if I'm sending it into, a contact that I may have for a children's publication, I'll gear it towards that. If I feel like one of them is maybe food and wine, and the other one is Prevention Magazine, let's say, Prevention Magazine has picked up a couple of my articles and they featured me. The audiences are very different, so the pitch may be a little bit different. I would encourage people to sort of keep it simple in the sense that you can't generate an ideas list of 8 or 9 different pitches in one email. Because first of all, save it, send it out. One of my things is if you are over annoying a contact, they will let you know. Until they let you know, people are busy. You have to hope that your email crosses right away at that right time, that your title is exciting. And so there's no reason to bury it in one email when you absolutely can divide it and break it up into a few different emails or pitches or pressers, things like that.
I love that because, obviously there's a lot of contacts in the starter pack, and most people would go directly to the one. Like if I were you, I would go for skincare, beauty, and wellness. But you're like, no, I'm going to use the food and wine contact. Like
Yeah.
I would never even think about that. So that's amazing. So can you take me through a journey where you came up with a pitch, you pitched, and then it got featured, kind of what that looks like in terms of how long it took, how many
Yeah.
follow-ups?
So I want to remind everyone, like, what sort of excites producer or a director. And one is definitely like a temporal nature to it, right? So if it's timely, I think that that's really important. The other thing is people always love to see a face, right? They love a human interest story because it sort of gets us excited. And so I want people to really keep that in mind as they sort of generate their ideas and sort of think about what might be interesting. So, for example, Men's Health, one of the articles that I had pitched was I actually was seeing a really a rapid increase in rise in skin cancer in a particularly sensitive part of the male anatomy. And so, and again, this is a great example of your publication is going to make a huge difference. So I immediately thought of Men's Health. And not only was I able to connect to a great writer who I currently have a great relationship with and who I pitch articles to all the time, I said, this is on the rise. We have a great treatment for it that I want your readers to be aware of. And I can connect you with a face. And it was almost like a no brainer for Men's Health to sort of pick up that article. And so that was sort of picked up with no problem. And then once you get those contacts, cherish them, keep them, remind them that they've used you in the past and that you've used them, and that you should know each other. They're obviously reaching out to tons of experts all the time. And so from there, we were able to pitch a few articles about like what's lurking around in your gym. So, what are some of the infections, the common skin infections that you might see? And again, if I were to tell you, Gloria, we're not gonna gross out your listeners today about the nasty things you could find in the gym. It has not changed in years. These are still the same either bacteria or viruses that you still might find. Obviously coronavirus excluded. But it's just putting it together and finding that right contact and saying, this is why it's important to your readers, whether it's now, whether it's 5 years ago, or, whether it's in the future. And it was well received. And so they were able to, publish an article on that as well. So using CPR plus using sort of those techniques to find an angle, find the human interest, and again, remind yourself that you are the discoverer in a lot of things in your own field. Like only you will have that inside knowledge. I'll take another example for you. So back in December, for our patients who were on who have acne, who are suffering from acne, and were on a medication called isotretinoin or Accutane, they had changed the total setup of how it was done. And obviously, the news is not aware of the mess that is happening on the ground in dermatology offices. It's up to us, in this point, I was the expert, to let the press know that there is a tremendous mess happening on the ground that is making it very, very difficult for our patients to get this medication that they so need. And so we alerted the Today Show, we alerted NBC News and local affiliates, and it slowly started to get picked up until finally it made like headline and it made front page news. So it only made front page news because people in our position, this was our expertise, were able to promote it. And so if you're not a physician, but you have that expertise in your field and you're noticing a trend, I encourage you to create an email and create that, that pitch so that people are aware of it, because otherwise they have no idea.
Yeah, I love how when you talk about pitching and opportunities, you really see that anything is possible. And pressing that send button is just a part of the journey. And I think for a lot of founders, they're so hung up on what to say and sending that first email that they don't even send that first email. And now that you know that, yeah, maybe someone won't like my pitch, or maybe I'll have a mistake in my pitch, but the more pitches I send, the better I'm going to get at my messaging, the more
Yeah.
seeds I'm going to plant. You're not even worried about like the actual like logistics of sending the email. You're just like, who do I want to contact today?
No, for sure. And practice doesn't make perfect. Practice just makes you better, right? I think there's just like this viral TikTok going around where it's this professor who keeps saying that practice doesn't make you perfect. It just makes you better. For me, it's like an exercise to sort of, you give me the topic, I'm going to try to find you some pitches, and you send it out. And if it gets picked up, that's great. If not, then keep going.
So you said people will tell you, and you probably sent out at this point, I don't know, like 50, 100 pitches. Have you ever had any journalist who was annoyed with you and said, don't email me again?
No, no. And I'll send it to the same people. They'll either not respond, which is, it's a rule of the game. Don't expect a response. Or they'll write back, be like, hey, like this is interesting. I'll keep you in mind. And then it's really up to you if you want to follow up with that and sort of tell people. I absolutely would encourage you to do so. Because again, the more you put it out there, the faster you're coming into their mind. And that's the only way that you sort of can get the successes that you sort of need. One thing that I learned from you was, as an inventor of one of my products, it wasn't out there. And I was like, well, I clearly can't generate any press for that. That is not true. You sort of find your expertise, you find your angle, you submit it in terms of the expertise, in terms of what you're providing, and then of course in the follow through, you talk about the product and things like that.
I love that. So I want to talk now about sunshots, which is an
Yeah.
amazing invention of yours. You're not only a dermatologist, but you're also an inventor. So you not only have a services business where you're talking about your expertise, but you have a physical product, which is a different type of pitch. Can you tell me about the similarities or maybe the differences between pitching your expertise and then also for this product that you've invented?
For sure. So, the journey of becoming an inventor was like quite long, and it was about finding the right connections. But I'm super excited that I was able to do it. I was able to use my expertise, so my background, and something that I was super passionate about, to sort of parallel. I want you to think of it as I was pushing two huge boulders together, which is one boulder is the invention, the other boulder is just what my expertise are, and it's finding ways to link it. So, for example, I have a. So, can you guess why I have a golf ball in my hand, Gloria?
Because that is the amount of sunscreen we need to cover your body.
You got it. Except who, in realistic terms, thinks of a golf ball when it comes to applying
Yeah.
sunscreen? So to explain what my invention is, so this is Sunshots. Sunshots is a portable and reusable sunscreen measuring cup. It's designed to go anywhere and everywhere with you. It's portable, it's reusable, it's environmentally friendly, and there's a 1 ounce line on the cup that reminds everyone what's the amount of sunscreen that you need to use. You are right, that is a golf ball size or a shot glass full. That's sort of where the name Sunshots came from. And it's just been great. And so there are a couple of ways that I've been able to promote it. One is finding that clever title, like this is one sunscreen hack of summer that you need, and hoping that they open it and realizing like, hey, this is actually a really great idea. And the other way is by tying it into something that I know best, which is obviously I know, skin cancer awareness is super important. Wearing good photo protection, wearing the right amount of sunblock is super important. And then once you get that interview with, let's say it's Everyday Health, or let's say it's with Allure, or let's say it's with Insider, that's your time to say, hey, we're talking about this topic. I want to make you aware of my invention, and here's Sunshots. Because this is something that people will really struggle with when they have an invention is, here's my invention. You should really just listen to me. But no, again, it's about finding that angle. It's making people aware of that angle and then how you can tie your invention into it.
So, I mean, that's so clever. It's leading with value. And the journalist is
Yeah.
not stupid. They know you're probably pitching because you have something to offer to their audiences. So, can you break that down for me a little bit more? Because I think so many people are like, here's my product. Can I send you a sample and lead with that? But you're saying you've actually gotten better responses when you lead with the challenge, right?
Yeah, so 100%. So when it comes to, and again, pick a season. So when it came to winter travel, here's one fact that I was able to pull, which is that you're more likely to burn and you're more likely to develop skin cancer by taking those short trips, let's say to Aruba or to the Caribbean in the middle of January. And so it's writing an article right around either Christmas break, winter break, spring break that says, here are 3 tips that your viewers, or 3 tips for spring break 2022. And in one of those tips is going to be sun protection, right? So, and I included that quick fact, and that's your plug for your invention. So, you could do this with sort of anything that you're sort of looking for. Let's say you're inventing, a really unique type of candle. You could think about spring break and how people want to relax and people want to get away. And this is one way that they could totally zone out and they could totally get into their groove with just great aromatherapy and great fragrances. And that's your pitch. And then you mention your invention like that.
I love that. You're gonna have to come into my Facebook group and inspire everybody because you just really took the methods and ran with it. So let's keep continuing. So you pitched the story. Obviously, you've seen the pitches in the starter pack, so we like to kind of stuff it in there. Not so obviously, but one of the 3 bullet points will be your product. And then what happens? And then what's the follow up and response?
Yeah, so the follow-up has been just totally tremendous because you're not coming from the angle that you're just like pitching your product, right? You're totally giving an expertise that meets that need. So when I wrote an article, or when I was featured in an article that spoke about spring break tips, they linked to Sunshots, and that links to my website, and that's instant SEO, and that's totally searchable. Another example is if there's ever a story about skin cancer and skin cancer awareness, a great there was a Canadian NHL team where one of the audience members, someone in the stadium was able to find and spot a skin cancer on one of the coaches. I quickly sent an email and said, like, these are the signs that you're looking for when it comes to skin cancer. And of course, like that's all my pitch, right? I just want to make people aware of skin cancer awareness. It has nothing to do with my product. There is a natural follow through with that, which is that if you protect yourself from the sun and you protect yourself by using the appropriate amount of sunblock, you could prevent that. So that's how that sort of tied in, and that's where I was able to get that link, and that's where I was able to get that SEO.
So did you have to explicitly ask on the phone call? Because I assume that they respond and you get on a call, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So, well, one of them was actually on the news. So, I was interviewed just like I am here. I was interviewed on the news, and that went to like 57 or 58 local affiliates across the country, which was awesome. And I spoke from my position, from my level of expertise, and I mentioned it, and there was no problem with it at all.
That's amazing. And did you have to clear it with the journalist and be like, well, I actually am also a founder, or were there total? It was not even an issue.
For me, it's not an issue because if they're going to not want that, or they're going to say something. I probably did let them know, like, in my title, I will tell them, like, hey, I am founder of Sunshots, and you could sort of bring it up that way, and it's really up to them whether they want to include it or not. If you're going to be on a live TV segment, you probably want to clear it, right? Because that's a totally different ball game. But because you don't want to sneak anything through, you should be excited, you should be enthusiastic, you should be like, hey, we're going to go live, but I'm going to be mentioning Sunshots, and this is exactly why I'm going to be doing it. Then there should be no reason at all. You should have no hesitation whatsoever.
Yeah. And you had no one was ever like, oh, you cannot mention your product, right? Because your pitch is really serving people, it's really being a part of the solution. So that's what helps you get rid of that icky feeling that you're trying to sell something, because your solution is really helping people at the end of the day.
Correct. Yeah, I think you said that perfectly, Gloria.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're selling what your goals are. And so think of what those are. So if it's to sell more of your invention, or if it's to sell more of yourself and your expertise, then that is going to ultimately shine through in whatever you do. Be persistent, continue, using methods that work, that are successful. And I think your methods are super successful because not only am I on the outside, but I've been on the inside. I've read those producer emails, I've seen what they look like. It's really just having that confidence, and it's a little bit of a numbers game, and you'll totally get there.
I love that. So another question I get is, okay, what if I want to be included in a gift guide? Can I be more explicit about why, for example, Sunshots should be in your summer travel bag? Like, instead of having to stuff it in one of the 3 points, and just say, I want to be included in this product roundup.
Yes, 100%. You really should obviously use that angle, which is why I think that this should be in your summer beach bag, or this should be in your summer getaway pack, or these are the things you must pack in your bag. So yes, it's a little bit different when it comes to the product features, for sure.
Now, in terms of all the different angles you've pitched holiday candy, you've pitched acne, like which one you think people should start with when they're just starting out, maybe sending their first pitch?
Oh, that's a great question. I really think that finding something that is newsworthy, that's current, or that either gives perhaps a new angle to something that's old, right? So I think that working that angle is really, really important. It could absolutely be, talking about where we are in the calendar year, but remember that magazines are thinking months and months ahead. Gift bags and items and things like that, they're thinking months and months ahead. So anytime and every time is a great time to think about your product and how that really, really makes sense. And if you're just getting started, obviously, go through all of the tips that Gloria, that you offer. Keep thinking of different ways and different ideas, and send as many emails as you want. Send a few. Use a server that lets you track, who's opening your emails. That way, you could change your subjects a couple of different ways, and track it down, and you'll only get better, right? So practice makes you do things better.
That's awesome. So, two other questions in terms of sending the email. How often do you follow up, and how do you use social media to make that really get through to them?
Yeah. So for a lot of my emails, I will send the email, and then I'll find them on LinkedIn, and I'll send the LinkedIn message like 20 minutes later or 10 minutes later, and I'll say, hey, I sent you an email. I would love to connect. And that's it. So like that brief angle. If I don't hear back from them, usually within a week or sooner, if it's even more like if it's even more, hot ticket item, that I'll send something a little bit sooner. But I really think that a follow through is super important. Don't think that people are ignoring you because they don't care about what you've sent them. They're most likely ignoring you because they have so much on their plate. And this is just, they're being bombarded by tons of people sort of every hour, and their inboxes are just blowing up. So just because you don't hear them, squeaky wheel oftentimes gets the oil. And it might just take a follow-up email. And again, be professional, be nice. There's no need to be short or curt with anyone. And it's just, hey, just wanted to follow up, just make sure, if you've seen my emails, things like that. I actually get, as part of my affiliations just with journalism, I get pitches all the time. And I can't imagine everyone is using the Gloria Chou method, but it's similar. You're obviously giving people a great resource. And I never get offended when I see the same email again and again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just keep at it.
You have to follow up. I have hundreds of people in the starter pack. I've pitched hundreds of times. I have yet to land a story without a follow up, whether it's email or LinkedIn. And let's be honest, we're competing with these very pushy PR reps
Yeah.
who are
Yeah.
getting paid thousands of dollars as well. So, can you talk to me a little bit? Because I know you've also had some experience with PR agencies versus doing it yourself. I think for a lot of founders, they just say, I don't have time to do this. So it's either I hire an agency or I just wait to do PR because I can't do it on my own.
Sure. So I would obviously discourage people from thinking that they don't have the time or the energy or the resources. One of the nice things is sort of once you come up with your pitch, just start with one, and I might have a couple of ideas. You're going to be able to send that out to a lot of people. So you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. You're going to be able to use either, the media contact list that's on your website. You're going to be able to find the right people to send the same email. You should tailor it, right? You shouldn't just write "Dear you." It should say who you're sending it to. But set a goal for yourself. Make it realistic. Maybe choose, or spend 15 minutes every day just going through, or if even that's too much, spend 15 minutes a week just going through the database, really finding the context that you need, sending the email, tracking it down, making sure you're looking who's opening it, who's not, sending those follow-ups. And it grows because it's just that's how the system works.
Yeah. And let's be honest, when you send that LinkedIn follow-up message, which is probably the reason why they get back to you, you want to send it from your own because it's awkward for a PR rep to do it. And the journalist is like, who the hell are you? Right. So you're the expert here.
Yeah, correct. And people are always looking for new people to speak with.
Yeah.
And they see the face, they see your history, they see everything about you. And you're right, it's just like one less layer of just blockage that's
Yeah.
removed when it's you sending that message on LinkedIn.
Yeah, journalism's not dead. And, definitely that the reason why journalism is so highly regarded is because they do want to have new voices, not just the Elon Musk and the Jeff Bezos of the world.
Yeah, and journalism is everywhere. So it's not just your traditional networks. And I would really encourage you to think outside. It's like it's sending an email. I promise you, it's sending an email to one of the largest airline carriers and finding someone in their department and saying, hey, you know what? Pilots are at increased risk for developing skin cancer. Like, this is super, super important. This is Melanoma Awareness Month. This is May. Let's talk. Or it's finding the hotel chain that has been just dealing, obviously, with pandemic related travel slump. And it's like, this is why this is super important coming up. So, like, there's press everywhere. And I encourage people to think outside the box.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Greta Anderson, who you connected with, was able to use the CPR method to also land a partnership. So it's not just press, but actually a partnership. So can you talk a little bit about what you've been able to do? Because now you are a consultant for a major pharmaceutical beauty company. How were you able to use the CPR method to get yourself in front of this audience, this opportunity that was very tremendous for you?
Yeah. So one, I really encourage everyone to have a great LinkedIn portfolio because it's one of the fastest ways for people to see a resume in 2022, right? Where we are today. People are on LinkedIn more than they've ever been before. If you look at the growth rates of people who are searching people on LinkedIn, it just continues and continues to explode. And so I actually used a lot of the CPR method in terms of how I set up my LinkedIn, or the specific LinkedIn, segment part of it. So I am able to appear as the expert that I am. And this is exactly why, right? So I'm able to write like I've treated 10,000 plus individuals. I've done this, I've done that, I've done that, because it really does look impressive. And just like a unpolished resume versus a polished resume, people only have a few seconds to sort of look you up and sort of find out who you are. And if yours is done or made, or you're searchable, you're going to come up, and great opportunities will follow. So I always say create the LinkedIn portfolio that you think you are, that you want to be, and great opportunities will follow. And someone reached out to me on LinkedIn and they're like, hey, what, we're looking for consultants for one of the largest aesthetics companies in the world, and it's certainly in the United States, and we need your expertise. And I heard more about the job description, and it's just been a great marriage. Like, it's been a great opportunity for me to offer some of my expertise in a consultancy role, and it's something that I love and that I'm really passionate about. And it's just a different angle that, particularly for someone who like didn't even think it existed, to really be able to offer that opportunity. So it's really, really been great. So again, have the LinkedIn portfolio that you think you are and that you want to be, and great opportunities can follow.
Someone really took note of everything in the starter pack and ran with it. And the best part about it is now you can say on your LinkedIn, literally in the headline, that you've been featured in all these places organically, because everyone can pay for an ad, but it takes a little bit more work to be able to position yourself as the founder and have the confidence to pitch, right? I mean, that's what really, to me, that's what landing media is showing that you are a leader. It doesn't matter how, profitable your business is or where you
Yeah.
are, but that you have the guts to actually go out there and say, I believe in this so much that I'm willing to pitch it to media.
Yep, 100%. I completely agree. It's believing in yourself. It's really setting goals for yourself and sort of asking yourself what you're looking to deliver and what you can deliver, and crafting a plan and being persistent and sticking to it. I didn't pay a dime in PR, and I've been able to land really, really great press, and I've just been really lucky. And I think I had one $25 sponsored ad maybe on Instagram at one point. But like that's about it. And so it's really, really been great.
And also speaking, right? Because I feel like you can carry that over to speaking as well. So I look forward to seeing you on some stages, whether it's virtual or in person.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Gloria. I'm looking forward to that too. I guess that should be my next frontier.
Yes, yes. One question, really quick before we hop off, is you have this beautiful product, Sunshots. It's great for all seasons. It's great for kids. It's great for families. When you are pitching for the product feature, whether it's must-haves in your travel bag, what
Yeah.
about samples? How do you offer samples? What is the way you go about doing that?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question, because there is a cost to your product. There's a cost to shipping, so you definitely have to do your numbers. You have to take that into effect. You have to count on your inventory. Supply chain issues are real. Like, these are real issues that we're all dealing with in 2022, and it's making sure your samples land in the right hands, like the right address, the right individuals, because throwing it out like literally out of a window is obviously not going to get you the things that you need. But it's finding the right people in sunscreen companies, or it's finding the right bloggers who reach an audience, or it's finding the person who needs it, right? So I've offered it to patients here who like totally need it, just to let them know, like, I want you to enjoy the sun, and I want you to sun responsibly, and this is one way to do it. So I think that that's a really difficult question that people or inventors will need to ask themselves. Who is not worth it, but is this going to have an impact on either them or on my business, right? So those two things go into play.
Now, do you have to? So, I mean, obviously, we know the answer to this, but do you only get featured if you have to send a free sample?
No, that is absolutely not true. So I've been featured plenty of times without getting a sample. If you believe in your product, like I do, I always say, like, can I please send you one? Because I just think that it's going to be that much more tangible to them. But there is no barrier, and it should not hold you back. And people should understand sort of what you're pitching and what you're providing, by either directing them to your website, or by talking about it, or mentioning how it could be relevant to their audience, and then go from there.
So it's not, so just to be clear, it's not a prerequisite. And if you are a bootstrapping founder and you don't have all the budget to send everything, you can still get featured.
Absolutely. I consider myself one of those individuals, and I'm still getting featured. So it works. Yes.
That's amazing. So you have a thriving practice. You just moved to a new state. You had Sunshots is doing so well. What is next for you in terms of visibility and the opportunities that you want to create for yourself?
Sure. Well, summer is literally around the corner. In fact, it feels like summer here in Texas because it is about 95 degrees today, and I'm forgetting that parts of this country still haven't had their spring and summer yet. And this is a great time for me to really start to pitch it to local affiliates, to larger affiliates. I'm going to try to get it more featured, on segments that are offering ideas about how to protect yourself this summer, because news relevancy is like, I guess, it's like a wave. It'll go up, then it'll go down for a while, then it'll go up, then it'll go down again. And so it's, again, just finding that right time and to think about that pitch. So I would love to see a little bit more, pickup and a little pickup of sun shots now that we are getting into the summer. But when winter comes around, you better believe that there'll be contacts in Australia and in the Southern Hemisphere that I'll be reaching out to, and there'll be travel, winter travel again. So it's all timely.
So the world is your oyster. And I know that so
Thanks.
many people who are listening are getting so many ideas because I consider myself a pitching pro, but I didn't even think about pitching for Halloween, like candies. So the fact that your mind is just blooming with these ideas is incredible. I can tell in your voice that you really do think that the world is your oyster, and there is definitely every single month, a week, a reason to pitch, even if it's something seemingly unrelated.
For sure. And I think that connecting with the right people, I mean, the community that you foster is super, super important because I'm so lucky to have been able to get in touch with founders just like myself. And, it just offer that, that piggybacking or that sort of understanding of, how we both can help each other. I truly believe that it's not necessarily who you know, it's how you use those connections to really launch greater successes for yourself and for your peers, because you can't get to where you want to be just by yourself. You obviously need other people, and that's for a benefit. That's actually to sort of stretch your mind. That's to sort of encourage and to expand upon your creativity. Because sometimes, and I think we mentioned this earlier on the podcast, your idea just may seem so boring or so bland, and no one's going to be excited about it. But you mention it to someone else, and they could be either in an allied field or they could be totally unrelated, but they're going to give you that confidence and that new self-awareness and that new perceptions that you could go out and pitch again and, just restart again and build up that energy level and keep it going.
I love it. I mean, I think so much of our business success, it's both mindset and then the tools to get there. Oftentimes it's not about the tools. We have tools, it's just what you believe is possible. And I think for a lot of people who before listening to this thought their angle was boring or not adding anything new, you've just smashed all of those beliefs and you've given us so much confidence. So we're going to need to have you back on the show. We're going to need to
Aw,
for
thanks.
everyone who's listening, definitely take notes. I feel like this is going to be one you're going to come back to, but Dr. Ross is also in our Facebook group. So if you want to copy and paste your pitch in there, we are happy to give you some feedback because he's someone who has done the work himself and now has is happy to share with our community. So thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Thanks so much, Gloria. I appreciate that. Yeah, happy to help out, sort of post it, tag me, and I'd love to just sort of give you some feedback on that because that's how we get better. And, maybe I'll tag a couple of mine. I got to think, let's see, we just passed Flag Day. So what's coming up next? I'll come up with some sort of seasonal relation or something in the news to get us excited again about sunscreen and skin awareness. And we'll be able to help each other. So thanks, Gloria. Thank you so much.
Now my brain is exploding with ideas. I mean, I'm thinking like National Hot Sauce Day. I mean, I don't even know.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Well, hot sauce can worsen,
Yeah.
conditions like rosacea and sensitive skin. And one way that sensitive skin and rosacea gets worse is by too much sun. So you need sun protection. And, hey, I'm the founder of Sunshots. I can do
Exactly.
it. I promise you that
Yeah.
that's how it rolls. Some of them will land, some of them won't. Have fun doing it. Really just get excited about talking about it and just sky's the limit. Sky is
So
the limit.
how do people find you, whether it's for inspiration for pitching, whether it's for sunshots, or for anything dermatology related?
Yeah, for sure. So you always could reach out on my website. It's rossmd.com. That's my personal website. There I've got a couple of demo reels if you wanted to sort of see some segments that I have. Of course, you could reach out to me on my business website, which is sunshots with a Z, sunshots.com. And I hope to actually, one of the next frontiers is just to post a couple more articles there to sort of use that to sort of piggyback and use some of the things that I'm featured. So that's coming up as well over the next few months. So either sunshots.com or my personal website, which is rossmd.com, or in the Gloria community. Just reach out. I'm in there.
Well, I'm going to need some sunshots for myself because even though I look young, this Asian skin is not going to last forever. So I'm going to order myself some sunshots.
Come down to Texas and you will see the sun like I have never seen it before. As a New Yorker, as a native New Yorker, I'm down here like, oh my goodness, am I on the surface of the sun?
Yeah.
But yes, hopefully the next time you come down. As this New Yorker, I just bought my first cowboy hat. And here was my pitch. I had to pitch it to someone very important in my life, which is my wife, who she obviously lived in New York for a while. And I said, look, like I got to be outside. I have to cover my ears, right? Like I'm not getting a sombrero while I'm here. I'm getting a cowboy hat. So I pitched it in the name of sun protection. And that is why, as a native New Yorker, I got my first cowboy hat. And I'm excited about it.
Woo!
And I love it.
Now, that deserves a round of applause. I got so energized. It's just so much fun talking to you, and I love
Aw,
that you've
thanks.
connected with so many people in the PR Starter Pack community. We're gonna have to have you back again and again because now I'm just like thinking about all the different angles. I mean, even National Pet Day. Anyways, for another day. But thank you so
Okay.
much for being here.
Thanks, Gloria. Thank you so much.